Hey guys, it's Max. Today is the first day of CES and we finally have all the specifications and information on the Panasonic GH5. Now, the launch video doesn't talk about everything, so the last 2 hours since the launch video came out and the announcements came out, I've been just doing a bunch of research, checking out all basically the stats, the specs, and doing math and figuring out a lot of details to bring you guys this video that goes over the top things that we did not know, the top questions that I was asked, and that questions that I had myself, answering those questions, and then talking about a few things that we still don't know about that would be good to have or that may be downsides. Now, I did pre-order this camera as soon as the pre-orders opened up, so I have overnight shipping and I'm very excited to get that in and make content on it, comparisons, and then a full review as soon as I get that camera. So if you guys want to see that, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and enable those notifications because YouTube has been blocking a lot of videos and not showing everybody what their subscribers put out. So enable those notifications, and if you're part of the notification squad, give me a comment down below. I'd love to give you guy a thank you or a high five emoji style for that. So thank you guys. So I'm very excited, as you guys can tell. This is a camera that a lot of people have been waiting on for years, and honestly, it does not disappoint. The specs and what we know previously from Panasonic, they always deliver on the expectations and the promises, unlike some other cameras that people have been waiting for a while. I'll just leave that unnamed. So we have a 20 megapixel sensor, and one really cool thing is it said not to be cropping whatsoever. So this is one big question that I had, is it still going to be cropping in when you go into that 4K mode? And the answer is no, it's not. It's going to be 2.0 crop over full frame, so it's using the full width of the sensor in 1080p or the 4K modes. So very, very excited about that. Now, what that means is you're not going to be losing any depth of field or low light performance in the 4K mode compared to 1080p because it's using all the pixels. Now, what that also means is we're going to be getting sharper looking 4K or more detailed 4K compared to the GH4 and lower noise at the same time. Now, that 20 megapixel sensor, it's a 4x3 sensor, just like Micro Four Thirds, which are slightly more square than standard sensors like your APS-C and full frame sensors. Now, what that means is if you go into 3x2 shooting mode, it crops the top off a little bit, so you'll get roughly about 18 megapixels if you like to shoot photos in 3x2 mode, which is what I like to do. And then if you go into video mode, which is 16:9 aspect ratio, you're going to get roughly 15 megapixels of data there. Now, since the camera doesn't crop, what that means is it's going to be taking that full roughly 15 megapixels, and it's going to be using all that data to create the 8.3 megapixel 4K file. Now, that is basically identical to the A7R2, and what that means is it's going to be compressing some of that noise, which is going to give you less noise, and the noise that does show up is going to be finer, more kind of film grain noise, which the Panasonic cameras already had, so that's definitely a great thing. Now, what that also is going to do is going to give you sharper and more detailed results because it's not using a 6K downsample, but it's close. It's about a 5K downsample, so you'll have better detail as well. So if you're a person like me who likes to crop into their 4K video and then output a 1080p file or upsample that to 4K, that's going to be better for those purposes as well. Now, there are some downsides with this, and we see this in the NX1, the A63, A6500, or the A7R2, is when you're taking extra data there and downsampling it, there is some room for some moire to show up. So if you're shooting some shirts or jackets that have some fine patterns on there, you can get a little bit of moire. Now, it's not a huge amount from what I've seen from these other camera brands, as long as the compression is done properly. And so it's not going to be anywhere near like the original Canon T2, T3, T5Is, or like the 7D Mark II 6Ds where you have a ton of this aliasing moire and it just looks terrible. It should be better than that, but there is a little bit of chance. Now, what Panasonic can do, and then one question they haven't mentioned or covered, and I couldn't find this anywhere, is if there's going to be a 4K crop mode. Now, this basically what they're able to do, since the sensor's high resolution, is give you the option to use a center crop of that sensor for a pure 1:1 pixel readout, just like the GH4 does, it crops in. Now, since the resolution of the sensor is higher, it's going to be about a 1.4 to 1.5 times crop over the regular full width of the sensor. This means that maybe your 70 equivalent in full frame is going to be roughly 95 to 100 millimeters. So if you want some more reach when you're shooting, your lens isn't long enough, you can put it into that mode and get closer to your subject. So that's a nice thing to have. Now, since you're not using all that data, you will get lower low light, but because this is a newer sensor, the low light should be roughly what the GH4 is in that mode if they allow this, this option, which I really hope they do. Now, another thing is the moire and aliasing would not be a problem since it's a 1:1 pixel readout. So this is one area that they haven't mentioned, but I really hope they take advantage of this possibility with this higher resolution sensor. Before I get into the next topic, I do want to mention that I do have some links in the video description if you guys want to see the full specifications of the GH5 with all the fine details that I'm not going to cover in this video. Since I'm only covering things that we didn't know previously, you guys can click on those links and check all of that info out. And if you guys want to pre-order it, it is up for pre-order at this time. If you want to get this camera within the first 1 to 2 months after its launch date, you really have to order it now, because what we saw with the GH4, the 63, the 6500, a lot of these really popular cameras, the X-T2, they get back ordered for months at a time. So if you guys do want to get one, I would suggest pre-ordering one right now. So you guys can follow those links in the video description and pre-order them, and that also helps us out to make more videos like this one. Along with that, I want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters that are giving us $2, $5, or $10 a month and helping us make more videos and some more better and interesting content for you guys, as well as getting some exclusive videos and some extra perks like ads posting earlier without ads and stuff like that. So if you guys want to support us and make more great videos possible, check out the link in the video description. The next thing I want to cover is the IBIS, so the in-body image stabilization. Now, this is something they didn't confirm where they first announced some of the specs on the camera, but it was basically a given that they're going to put this in because their GX85 and G85 already has this built in, and some of their big competition has this as well. So it's going to have IBIS, which is really great if you want to adapt lenses or use prime lenses that don't have image stabilization. So it's perfect for me. I can use some of my amazing Sigma art lenses with inbuilt stabilization. Now, along with that, if you have some Panasonic lenses that are supported, you can actually use both the stabilization in the lens and the sensor, the in-body image stabilization as well, to give you extra smooth footage, video footage, and also help in low light shooting with low shutter speeds. Now, we're going to see how well this performs compared to the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II, which I will have a review on shortly. So if you guys don't want to miss out that review, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And once this camera comes out, the GH5 will be doing some comparison tests. Now, the new lenses, not all lenses support this at this time. All the new lenses that are launched, which Panasonic's launching about 4 or 5 new lenses at the same time as the system, those will be supported, and there's going to be firmware updates in the future for some of the older lenses. So here's one thing that I'm really impressed by, and I have some specs here. They updated the rear LCD, which is great. It was already good, but now it's going to be even better, a really impressive one, and the EVF at the same time. So not just sticking with what works already, they're taking it up a notch, which I'm really happy about. So the EVF is a 0.76 magnification and 3.7 million pixels, actually almost 3.8 million pixels in it, compared to 0.64 with 2.3 million pixels. So what this means is the EVF is actually larger, about as large as the A7R II, which is a beautiful large EVF. But now, even though it's a larger size, instead of keeping that same resolution, which is what the A7R II does, about 2.3 million pixels, they upped it to 3.8. So it's going to be really, really, really sharp and detailed, which is fantastic. Now, along with that, the rear LCD screen is slightly larger, 3.2 inches, and it is 1.62 million pixels on there, compared to a 3-inch 1 million pixels. So it's slightly larger, but it also has improved pixel density. So it has about 1.5 times more pixels per inch compared to the older model. So if you like shooting with a rear LCD like I do, and you're using manual focusing, this is going to be great because you're going to be able to tell what's in focus without focus peaking, even though they do have that function, but it's going to be nice and detailed. Now, another rumor was the full-size HDMI port, and that was confirmed. So if you want to do output recording to, say, like an Atomos Shogun or to a live video mixer, you're going to have a lot less problems with that port going out from HDMI movement. So not all the specs were announced about the bit rates, but we do have 4K at 60 FPS, 8-bit, and I did see in one of the videos they had just a shot, not really talking about it, but a shot of it running at 150 megabits per second in 8-bit, which is great. I'm glad they didn't stick to the 100 megabit, but the 60 FPS has 150, so it's not 200, which I'd really love it to be at, but 150 is still better than 100, and some brands don't up the bit rate when you're shooting higher frame rates, so your results really aren't as sharp or as detailed. Now, the camera does have dual SD card slots, and it is said to be able to have multiple functions. So writing to the first one and then switching to the second one automatically, or doubling all your data to have a backup copy, or being able to shoot video to one and photos to the other. Now, there's multiple cameras that have dual card slots, and a lot of them won't let you do video to both cards at the same time like they do in the photo modes, like the X-T2. So that's something we have to find out, and I really hope this is going to be a feature that they allow, because if you're shooting something that you can't redo, it's really great to have that backup functionality. If one of your cards goes bad, you still have all your video files on the second card. Now, here's another thing I'm really concerned with is the video autofocusing. Now, the camera does have over 4 times the focusing points, and they did say that they improved their depth to defocus autofocusing technology, so it should be tracking better. And Griffin, in his video, he mentioned using the tracking in the video mode to track subjects, but the camera does not have phase detect. At least none of the specs and nothing they mentioned said phase detect. That means it's using contrast detect autofocusing, which is great in photo modes. It's really fast, but in video on the GH4 and other Panasonic cameras, it really does a fairly bad job. It's basically unusable. It's not really reliable. It's good if you want to just set your focus the first time, but for tracking, it simply doesn't work. And it's not the camera, not the fault that the camera can't see what it needs to do. It's just the tracking itself doesn't move smooth or fast enough like you guys have seen in my tests. So if you're doing eye detect, it'll track the eye perfectly and the face perfectly, but the camera, the actual focusing system won't keep on to that subject. So this is a huge deal. This year, 2016, has been a big year where a lot of filmmakers have changed their mind in autofocus and have seen what these new Sony cameras can do and Canon cameras can do, and are using video autofocusing a lot more than they did previously. Now, this is something I do as well. We do probably a little bit more manual focus than auto, but when you're on a gimbal especially, being able to shoot shallow depth of field with video autofocusing and it being accurate and being able to rely on it is just so amazing. So if this camera is not good in the video autofocusing, that means that even if I do switch to GH5s, I'll likely still need to be keeping like a Sony a6500 for my gimbal camera, which I don't really want to do. I want to have all my cameras matching. So this is something that we'll have to wait and see. So I'll be covering this and, you know, looking at this in detail in my full video review. Another thing in the video mode is faster readout of the sensor. Now, Griffin did say that the sensor reads out faster, so rolling shutter is no longer an issue. It's interesting he said that because the GH4 really didn't have that much rolling shutter. It did have it, but compared to a lot of the other 4K cameras, it was better than the majority of the other cameras that came out after it. So if this camera has improved in regards to rolling shutter, this is really going to be one impressive camera. It's going to be one of the best 4K cameras on the market if you like to shoot sports video, anywhere where you're moving the camera around quickly. So we'll be checking this out. So the last thing I want to mention is the weight of the camera. The size is almost the same, but I was really interested to see that the weight is about 25% more than the GH4. So this is likely just because they're building it better, they're using more metal, better weather sealing. But it's just one thing I didn't notice and I kind of wanted to mention because most other people are not covering this. Along with that, we have an XLR unit that goes on top of the camera, and it's priced at about $400, which I think is really reasonable. With the GH4, they launched that YA unit that was super expensive and very large, and it didn't sell well at all. but now we have a small unit that sits on top. You could put in 2 XLRs, have phantom power, and I think this is going to be a really nice thing to have for those of you guys that like to use XLR microphones, and I think it's going to sell really well. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought in the video comment section below. If you guys have any other questions, let me know. I'd love to do some more research. I want to just figure out as much as I can about the camera, so the day it comes out, I'm going to have it in my hands and I know exactly what to test, exactly what to look into, and you know, cover it really in detail and answer all of your guys' questions when I get that camera. So let me know all your guys' questions. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Once again, if you guys want to check out more specs and if you guys want to pre-order it, there's some links in the description, along with the Patreon link for those of you guys who want to support us with a few bucks a month and get all those extra perks and benefits. And to those of you guys who have signed up already, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.